Welcome everybody. I'm just going to wait a couple more minutes while all the attendees join the session. So first of all, my name is Ivan Contramaestro. I just want to say thanks again for Juan Pablo for dedicating a lot of his time. All the other directors and volunteers that are helping us putting this together. I'm just going to stop talking because let's give the camera to our the man of the day.
All right. Hi. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much, Ivan. This is awesome to be here. I'm very excited and grateful to have this opportunity to share some of my artwork and my experience with everybody, especially through the pandemic. And I want to introduce myself. My name is Juan Vega. I am an illustrator, artist, graphic designer, and fine artist here in Vancouver. Participate in lots of live painting events, lots of artwork inspired and local talented shows and things like that I get to paint and participate with lots of the Vancouver artists, some of the top Vancouver artists, and I'm very grateful to have these opportunities. And I also have a background in illustration. So I've been drawing since I was a very young boy. Ever since I was about 4 years old, I would draw everything and I could look at. I was very into animation and comic books. I've been collecting comic books for a very long time. So every time I have a chance, I like to use that as inspiration for some of my artwork. I grew up in Venezuela, where there was a very limited access to most of those things. So throughout television and art and pop culture, I was able to develop my own style in art. And yeah, I've got an Instagram account. You can follow me, JP Vega Creative, on Instagram. And you can see most of my artwork. I try to post every day and share some of there's some time lapses and there's some process images and some of my live painting events and things like that if you're interested in looking at that. So yeah, here's some of my samples of the illustrations that I have that I was planning on sharing with you guys, just to give an idea of some of the things that we're going to be doing. Lots of superhero inspired artwork. You can see that there's many different styles and very different inspirations of different cartoons and animation and comic books that we're going to use. These are all black and white inks. And you can see sometimes there's more elaborate illustrations and sometimes it's just quick and easy doodles. And you know, textures, styles, different development in art. Then we got full color. This is sort of close to what we're going to try and achieve at the end of the project. There's different styles and different techniques that we can use. These are just some of the samples. Some are acrylic paintings, some are watercolors, some are markers, some are crayon. It all depends on what the style of the day and the flavor of the day is, or whatever tools I have available at the moment. And yeah, I can flip through these all day. I don't know. Do we have? Are we going to start the class right away?
I'd say so. Yeah, let's just get your work session ready there, and I think we can get started. While you get ready there, I just want to remind everyone. We're at the end of this. We are going to put together all the social network names for Juan and also for the Venezuelan Canadian Society, and you can go and view all the work and visit them. Or if somebody can start putting them on the chat, we can do that right away. All right, take it away, Juan.
All right, perfect. So at first, we're going to need to warm up. We're going to need to get ready and started. The goal of the day today is that we're going to have a structured sketch of our drawing and superhero. I am going to be doing some warm-up exercises first, explain some line work. Then we're going to go into composition. We're going to do some thumbnails. Like some thumbnails are smaller versions of the final drawing that we want to do, so we can have an idea of what it's going to look like before we work on our piece. The good thing is, I'm going to try and take this very step by step and slowly. art is very extensive and there's many things that we can do. And there's very extensive techniques and styles. I'm going to give you guys a very resumed and short version so anybody can follow along. It's basic and it's very simple for people to start in. Now, once we get more into the classes, I'm going to get a little bit more detailed. And if you have any questions at all, if I'm going too fast or if I'm going at a speed that you don't feel comfortable with, take your time. You're probably going to be able to see this later on your own time and do it slowly and do step by step. And don't forget, you can ask questions at the end of this event. So we can cover most of the things that you might want to know about illustration. But I'm going to give you the basic steps and most of the primary things that you need to do to get started drawing superheroes. Okay, so first of all, we need to kind of get our fingers and wrist warmed up. We don't want to be tight. We don't want to be constrained. We want to have freedom of movement. If you're grabbing the pencil very tightly, you're not going to be able to draw the things that you want or coordinate with your eye because you're going to be too tense. So you want to be loose. You want to have your fingers nice and nimble, relaxed, you know, kind of shake it all off. And then there's a couple of exercises we can do to get our eye and our pencil to coordinate. You can grab the pencil when you're drawing. You can grab the pencil however you feel like. Some people like to grab the pencil from the base. Some people like to grab the pencil with their fingers like this. You can use whatever you feel comfortable with. It's not necessary to draw like if you were writing. Now, some people are very used to grabbing a pencil a certain way, like I am, but sometimes you'll see me change my position depending on what kind of stroke I want to do. I'm going to change the tool in my hand. And obviously, you want to be using tools that you're comfortable with, some of your favorite pencils. It doesn't matter what kind of pencils. We can go into very extensive details about what kinds of tools you need, but whatever you feel comfortable with is what you should be using. You can use sheets of paper, you can use sketchbooks, you can use notepads, you can do whatever you want. You're not restricted. Art has no basic rules or laws. It's just basic techniques and styles. You can develop your own. So first, you want to be doing some little squiggles. I'm going to do very hard lines so you can see them through the camera, but you can go very softly and try and follow the squiggle that you're doing. This is for your eye and for your hand to follow each other, okay? So your eye and your hand are calibrated, okay? So whatever you put your eye, you can follow along with your pencil. So whatever you look at, you can draw. Now there's another way of doing this. This is trying to draw crosses and trying to make the center match. And that way, you're also calibrating your eye and your hand, right? Trying to make them meet in the center, okay? These are all just to loosen up. This is just to start. Then we can start doing some circles, okay? Circles are gonna be one of our favorite things to do when we're drawing, and they don't have to be perfect circles. We just wanna loosen up our hand. We just wanna get a feel for the paper, for the pencil. We wanna be using we want to get most of those, you know, tightness, and you can make a mess. It doesn't matter because this page is for practicing, okay? And we want to get different kinds of strokes, different thicknesses. Obviously, if you want to use a different kind of pencil, or if you're using a different kind of pencil, like say a mechanical pencil, that's fine. All these exercises work. This is a blue pencil I use sometimes. Oh, see? So if you've got a heavy hand and your strokes are too strong, these break really, really easily. These are for using very gently. If you use a very strong hand and you want to lighten your stroke so you can practice better, to have a loose hand, you can use a mechanical pencil, and then you'll learn to not be so heavy on your line work, so you can have nice clean lines. Now, if you're using a different kind of mechanical pencil like that one, that's fine. It's just the same pencil with a lead inside, and you can still do the same traces and line works and everything. Nothing's going to be any different than what we're using before, okay? So it doesn't matter what tool you're using, as long as you're comfortable, as long as you get loose, and as long as you're happy with what your results are. And we have most of our line work done. Let's work on some thumbnails. Now, what do we want to do as a thumbnail? We're going to have an idea of what our paper is, our frame, and we're going to put our character somewhere on that page. Now, if we're going to focus on doing some dynamic poses, because some people have very rigid poses, which is, you know, kind of like just straight on viewing the character, you know, with their feet and their legs and, you know, their arms. This is a static pose. There's nothing specific or particular about that. This is a very rigid pose. Now, if we want to have a dynamic pose, and this is just like a skeletal structure, proportions, we're not going to focus on proportions right now. We're just going to have an idea of what we want the character to do, and then we're going to help it develop the proportions when we move along. So a dynamic pose, so see this center line right here? That's where he's standing. And if you're going to do a female, this is a male structure. It's kind of rigid, and that's how their body type is. It's a square frame. In a female form, you're still going to have the head, you're going to have the shoulders, you're going to have where the hips go. But see that this structure is square to where the waistline and hips would be, in the hip sockets. The female proportions is like an hourglass, and sometimes a little bit wider on the bottom, depending on who it is and depending on your ethnicity and everything. The width is different, but it's basically an hourglass shape. And then you can develop where the legs go, where the feet go. The feet of the female are smaller. The males have wider, triangular, outgoing feet. Women have a smaller form. So depending on what you want to do, you're going to have a different body type. And with this basic shape, you're going to be able to find out if you want to do a female or a male, what do you want? So based on that center line, we can get dynamic pose. How is a dynamic pose? Say I'm throwing a punch or I'm flying through the air. So my body line, my expression line can be moving forward. And we can move that line where this is the center of the body. We can move that line in space. Say if we're looking at it straight on, it's like this. But we start rotating that line, and we're going to get a perspective, okay? And if the body has a curvature or a movement, we're going to be able to get an expression out of that. So then we're going to decide where we're going to have the hand, say, because this is the most extended part of the body, it's coming out. Then we're going to have the head at some point somewhere, you know, a third of the way down from the extended point. And I'm going to put my shoulder here maybe to kind of accentuate where that hand and arm are going to go. This is where the elbow would be. And I can have the hand with the fingers extended, or I can have it in a punch. It doesn't matter. We can erase and do whatever lines we want. I'm doing very dark lines, but when we're building these, we want to use a very faint line. We want to be very gentle so we can erase those after we're done. Or if we have to correct anything, it's easier to erase than to have a heavy stroke. If you have a very heavy stroke, you're not going to be able to erase that as easy, okay? So then going back to our pose, we have our rib cage, and we have our hips. And then all these things, once we have those circles, I said before that we're going to use circles as our friend. We're going to identify what parts of the body are there. So I'd say hand, elbow, head, shoulder. We can have the other shoulder way back here. This is the rib cage. This is the hip. And then we have our knee and our other. And we can even have the other leg then coming out this way with the knee here and bend the other foot back here. And we can have, so now we see he's jumping out. He's going, he's moving forward. He's throwing a punch. He's got a dynamic pose. It's very cool. Then afterwards, you just have to come in and join those body parts into the shape of a human. And you can also kind of start doing the details if you want, where the head and the expression and the arms and stuff. Let's throw the other arm this way and have it like coming up to your face, kind of a thing. And then there we go. There you have a dynamic pose. He's moving forward. He's jumping into space. He's not static like the front facing. And it's more interesting to see this in action than to have it just standing there. Now, it's okay. You can do things. This is kind of an extreme pose, and this is a very static pose. You can do something in between if you want. So let's decide what we want to do with our character. We want to have him jumping out towards us, or we want to have him moving sideways or doing something more, more elaborate or more dynamic or more fun. Then we can decide what we want to do. So first of all, we have to decide what the gestures, you know, like we can do whatever kind of curvature line we feel like for the gesture of his movement. So I'm thinking I'm going to have him coming a little bit out towards us. Okay, so I want his gesture to be a little bit curved. So I'm going to throw in the rib cage around here. His head's going to be around here. And I want his hips just slightly. So you've got your shoulders right here, right? And this is your hip line. Same as what we have up here, shoulders and hip line, hips and shoulders. If we make those curve, like don't make them be parallel to each other. If we bend this one a little bit and that one a little bit, then you have more of a dynamic pose. Then you've got him coming in like this, and his rib cage is going to be like that, and his hip line is going to be like this, and then he can put his head. It's more dynamic to have him this way, and it's more organic. It feels more natural to have him not have his hips and his shoulders be in the same frame. We want them to be opposite to each other, or at least slightly tilted against each other. So we've got the middle of the body going through here, and then you can join whatever that is, whatever the width of the character is going to be. So say you want him to be fat, and just add a little bit more chunkiness to him. If you want him to be skinny, make him skinnier, depending on what the body type you want. You've got two little shoulders right here, and you get that. So we can have his, say we want his leg jumping out, and we want his knee to be right here. So we're going to do and decide what his foot's going to be like. Say we want his foot to be like sticking out towards us. That's this big toe, little toe, little toe, little toe. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, and a big toe. See, we got one foot coming out. He's kind of jumping at us. And then this one would be going back into the horizon, right? So say he's standing over here. We got this other leg. He's going to come back and maybe even go this way. So he's standing on the ground maybe. So you've got a dynamic pose. He's walking out. He's jumping forward. So when somebody's jumping forward, normally their arms are opposite each other. So this arm would be this way maybe, or this way. And this one would either be back here, right? So what we're doing with the thumbnails is that we're deciding what his pose is going to be and what angle he's going to be standing in. I don't know how long I've been talking here. This is what time mark are we on? Is this 15 minutes in?
It is. We are about. Yeah, we're about 10 minutes. Yeah,
10
about.
minutes in?
It's almost 11:30. It's almost 11. So we
It's
have
almost
another.
11.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I'm going to start a timer right now just to make sure what time I am, because I forgot to start it when I started drawing. So keeping my eye on the thing. So thanks, Ivan. So right now we're deciding what his pose is going to be, and he's kind of like jumping out. He's got his arm. Say we want his pose to be, you know, one arm's in the front, one arm's in the back. They're opposite each other. Like if he was standing sideways, this is his rib cage. If he was standing sideways and you're looking at a different angle, he's kind of like doing this. And you can see his foot, and you can see his other foot. And he would be kind of, this would be opposite going back. That's his right hand. And then this one would be his other hand going front. So we've got him, and maybe like this is his gesture. We've got him here. So if I rotate him sideways, I'm going to see this angle. But if I'm standing from the front, this is where my camera is looking at him. Say that's what we're using as an angle. This is where we are right now looking at him here. So if we rotate that, we're looking at him sideways. So that would be his pose, right? So we decide his other hand's probably going to come down here. And we can always, whatever line I use, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to use those as the final ones. These are just structural. This is like we're building the skeleton. Just like we do a stick figure. When you were a kid, you would draw stick figures to do, you know, little characters and have it say hi and everything like that. Everybody knows how to draw a stick figure. Well, illustration is just basically using that skeleton to create whatever character you want. And then you're going to start developing, you know, you can do into details and muscles and stuff like that. You don't need to know all of the body muscles. You don't need to know how they bend and how they move, because they're all going to do something different. They're all elastic and changing and doing different things when you're moving them. So you don't have to learn how every muscle looks, but you can use a reference. Say, if I need to draw a hand, use your own hand. Look at it. See how it moves. See where it bends. See where the knuckles are. See where the tendons move. And then you can see those things. Say I've got an elbow here and a wrist here and shoulders and all that stuff. You look at your own and you can identify what needs to be there. And you don't have to be 100% accurate, because we're probably going to cover most of those things up with armor or clothing or any other thing in elements. So if we have a character that we would decided, you know what, I like the dynamic of this pose, but I don't think it's cool enough. I want both his feet to be grounded. So let's draw another one. And you can do as many thumbnails as you want, because this is just to decide how the character is going to be. So I want him to be standing with 1 foot back, 1 foot forward, both on the ground, but he's going to be 3/4 turned. So my pose, if you see the pose gesture line, it's like this, just like the one we were doing for the flying guy. He's got a gesture. So this gesture is this way, and making the sound effects makes it better. So if I do any sound effects, you know what it's going to happen is because I'm having fun with this. So I've got my hips, I've got my feet, I've got my rib cage, and I've got my head. See, little stick figure? I know where those guys go. And you can kind of see my hip line and my shoulder line are kind of opposite. Like they're not straight. One of us moving forward because this leg's going to be in front with the knee right here. And one's going back like that. And he's standing kind of sideways. Big shoulder, big shoulder. I'm going to do a male character just because they're powerful and imposing. It's not to say that women can't be powerful. There are many superhero characters, female characters, that are very powerful and imposing. But say I'm going to do a male character because that's the design I wanted to go with. And you can do something with an athletic body like Spider-Man, or you can do one as huge and muscular as the Hulk. It doesn't matter. You can do Superman, which is sort of like a big, muscular, stereotype Atlas kind of mythical he's Superman. He's supposed to be the most infinite and strongest character. Then, you know, you kind of have to represent it with the maximum musculature and definition and beauty and attractiveness of like Greek gods. But if you're going to do like, I don't know, a Wolverine, who's a more beast-like character, he's a little bit shorter, he's a little bit stockier, he slouches, he's not representing the epitome of athleticity. He's representing aggression or bestiality or feral character. So it depends on what you want to do. Like if I want to do a Spider-Man or a Superman, they don't have the same kind of body type. So we have to accommodate depending on what our character needs to look like and what we want him to be. So if I want my character to be standing in a more powerful position, or he's powering up and he's standing forward and he's got his fists clenched because energy is going to be coming out from the sides, or he's doing a blast of energy through his eyes, or whatever you feel like you want to do, you have him represented in that position, in that posture. So see, he's not standing as static as front facing. He's kind of turned, he's kind of looking sideways, and he's got one thing in front of the other, like one leg's in the back, one leg's in the front. His position is more imposing, but he's grounded, like he's solid on the floor, and it's going to be more imposing that way. But if we want something to be, you know what, I feel like he should not be so powerful. Maybe I want him to be fun. Maybe I want him to be kind of in between one posture and the other. I want him to be something in the middle. So let's decide on doing another one. And his posture and his gesture, I want him to probably be something closer to that. And you can see his head's going to be forward. His shoulder might be right next to his head. This is his rib cage. And I want him to take more space in my page. I want him to be more present. So now we've got, this is where his hip line would be. And you can see, this is where my shoulders are. This is where my hips are. And I want one leg to be here. The other leg can be either sticking out like this. And obviously, stick figure. You can make your knees, put your foot up in the front, and draw, fill in what this would be: the calf muscle, the leg, the thighs. And then we want to have maybe one hand. Let's say he's holding something. You know, let's say he's holding an interesting little thing here. So his hand would be behind that thing, holding it over, and then it would wrap around. So his hand would be here. And then this other hand, let's say he's saying hi. His elbow's coming out this way, arm coming out this way. Put your hand up. And you can even kind of draw what the hand would be looking like opened with a thumb. Hey. So I'm kind of liking this position better than that imposing pose, or this one standing forward, or this one coming up. Personally, I'm enjoying this. This character is doing what I think we want to show. We want to show him being fun and interesting and happy or whatever. Not so powerful and imposing. Maybe you do want to draw it this way. You follow your own rules, whatever you want to draw. But now you know, you can see where the body is supposed to be and what shapes. And we can start rounding out those shapes and figuring out what those things need to look. And the stronger the line is, means that I am happy with the position of those things. And I can draw out the character. And this is just getting the pose. This is just getting the structure, the skeleton. Yes, we can get into details about how many head lengths are in the body size, but I'm not going to get into that because that's very extensive. We can do that later. We can investigate and learn. But right now, I just want to have fun and kind of put together certain things. It doesn't have to be perfect. We can draw perfect with time. This is practice. This is just to decide how big things are, where we want them to be, how it should be looking. So now that I've got this pose and I've decided what my character is going to be doing, we could do it on a bigger, clean piece of paper. I'm just going to switch pencils because this one is a little bit dull now. It's great for doing other stuff. But right now I need my crisp pencil, and I got a little bit of pencil here. I'm going to clean it up. So I'm going to follow this pose. Maybe I'm going to make some changes because I might draw it better, but I'm going to follow this pose. So originally, like we did before, we have the gesture of the body line with one leg coming up, the other leg coming out. If you can't see what I'm doing, I can see there's where my knees are. This is where my head would be. And I have my head coming out. Just do a light circle. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle. You don't have to have the perfect line right now. We're just deciding where things go. The shoulder, the rib cage. Now we've got more space to work with. We've got a bigger piece of paper. We can start moving things around. So that arm is going to say high up front here, and I'm going to make where the hand goes, where the elbow is, and that's connected to the shoulder. You can see we still have the hip line, we still have the shoulder line, and we're building very lightly. And see, I'm grabbing the pencil when I'm trying to do lighter, more expressive lines. I grab it from the back because that means I have less control of the tip, but more control of my gesture, more control of where my forms are. And you can kind of see that's where one leg is, that's the other leg. One's going to come down, like we got the knee, it's going to come down here, it's going to stand in front. We're going to have the foot coming up forward, and it bends right here. There's a little trick that lots of artists use, and I forgot to tell you guys at the beginning. There's this bean. When you draw the bean, it's like it's squished. It's like it's a pillow. It's like it's this. You can make a pillow. You put the little corners of the pillow here and the corners of the pillar there, and it's got volume. And all you're doing is just drawing kind of like a heart. But see, that shape is tucked in, and it's got shadows, and it's got forms, and it's got roundness. You can use those squishing sensation of that drawing and that gesture into certain things like the back of the leg where it squeezes into the knee. Like that's where the crease lines are. And we can do the bone structure of how the hips behave, which is basically like just drawing like a bug's head. You got one eye here and the other eye here, and you get the torso connection. This is where the sockets go in and stick into the leg, and you can have your knee here. This is where that connects. And then you have your ankle, the foot. And I'm very expressive in my line work, and sometimes it's very cartoony. It doesn't have to be anatomically correct all the time. It just has to be believable and expressive, and you have to be able to express those things. So this is just the calf muscle right behind, because the bone would be in here and it would stick out into the knee. But then you've got the muscle that's in the back, and some athletes have bigger calf muscles, others don't. And then you've got another muscle up here, kind of, you don't have to be perfect. And then there's some tendons and stuff that go into the hip line, and you can start developing where those lines are. And all these lines can be erased later, because we're just going to find the definition of certain things where they belong. And then the other leg is down here. We can make them standing like this.
Just a quick interjection here,
Yep.
Juan. We are reaching 11:11 a.m.
Okay.
So we do want to leave some time for questions at the end, and maybe some
Sure.
closing words. Yeah.
Yeah. So we basically have, and we're just going to have our character right here. We're going to have the basics of the character. I'm just going to speed it up. Sorry for taking so long. That went a little ahead of me. So what we had originally in here, we can start adding little details and things like the neck. We're not finishing the characters completely. We're just going to define where things go. Okay. You guys can start adding or changing or moving things wherever you want them to be. There's a little rib cage here. This is a shoulder that goes into the chest. So we got to draw kind of where the muscles belong. All right, so we have the basic composition of a character. Head can be divided in certain parts, and you can start putting your eyes in a rough place. So now we've got a rough idea of what our character is going to look like. In the next section, I'm going to go into details and definition after we've got the posture. So we're going to keep on working on our character, and we're going to add more details and everything like that. But I hope all these little tricks helped you define. We did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We could say 6 poses. 7 with this little guy. So you choose your pose, you decide what you want, you put it on a bigger sheet of paper, and then you start adding your definition to what things are going to be. On the next one we're going to enter in the details, and we're going to start defining the character, and we're going to bring it more closer to a finished piece with all its muscles and details and shadows and shapes. So yeah, this was a pretty fun. Time actually flew. It was shorter than I expected, and I hope we covered as much as you guys wanted to know. If anybody can share their artwork and tag me or put them on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook and any of the social media links, I'd love to see everybody's artwork and share and see what everybody did. I'd also like to keep in touch and maybe answer questions with them as well. So if they feel like they want to write or post their artwork or post their drawings, I would be very happy to enjoy and see those on the social medias and share them with the rest of the community.
Hi, thanks, Juan. Oh, wow, that was amazing. That's, you know, I can watch you draw for hours and hours. I really, really enjoy this part. I know
Awesome.
that it's hard to impart all that knowledge and all the different tricks of the trade in a short session like this, and that's why we basically had to divide it into 3 sessions. We wanted to limit it to at least a 3-part series. And for those of you joining us, or if you didn't know, this is only part 1 of a 3-part series. So thanks everybody for connecting. Gracias por conectarse con nosotros. Gracias. Thank you.
Have a great day.